My wife asked me to bring my best friend into our bed. I said no. She did it without me. And that was the moment I realized my marriage was a lie. And I had no choice but to calmly tear their little game apart with undeniable proof. For 10 years, I believed I had the perfect life. A loving wife, 2 beautiful kids, a decent job that paid the bills, and a best friend who had been like a brother to me since high school. From the outside, people probably thought I had it all figured out. And to be honest, I thought so too. Until that night when my wife dropped a bombshell that split my world in half. Before I dive deeper into this story, let me just say this. If you enjoy real-life stories about betrayal, revenge, and justice, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Trust me, what I'm about to tell you only gets darker and more unbelievable. That IT started with what she called a fantasy. We were sitting on the couch after the kids had gone to bed. She was sipping wine, scrolling through her phone, when she looked at me with this strange little smirk. "What would you think," she asked, "if we invited someone else into the bedroom?" I laughed at first, thinking she was joking. But when I realized she was dead serious, my stomach dropped. That I asked who she had in mind. She said his name. My best friend. The guy who had stood by my side through college, through the birth of our children, through every major event of my adult life. I remember staring at her, not even sure if I'd heard her right. And then she leaned in, as if whispering a secret, and repeated his name. I told her no. Flat out. My exact words were, "That's insane, and I don't ever want to hear that again." She acted annoyed, like I was the one ruining some harmless joke. But the way she looked at me that night, like I was boring, like I wasn't enough, etched itself into my brain. And even though she brushed it off later as just a thought, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was very, very wrong. The days that followed were different. She was on her phone more than usual, staying up late in the living room after I went to bed. When I'd walk in, she'd slam her phone face down on the table, pretending she was just scrolling through Instagram. But her smile never reached her eyes anymore. There was a distance, a crack in the foundation of what I thought was a solid marriage. I told myself I was paranoid. That maybe she was just stressed, or maybe I'd overreacted to her suggestion. But then, little things started piling up. She suddenly had work dinners that never existed before. She took longer showers, guarding her phone like it held state secrets. And when I casually mentioned my friend, she went stiff, like I just caught her in the middle of a lie. Still, I wanted to believe her. I wanted to believe the woman I'd spent a decade with couldn't possibly betray me like that. I convinced myself she was just being weird, that maybe she regretted the suggestion and was embarrassed. But then one night, when she thought I was asleep, I heard her sneak into the hallway, phone in hand, whispering into it with a voice so low I almost thought I was dreaming. That I didn't catch the words. But I caught the tone. That soft, flirtatious, almost guilty tone. And the moment I heard it, I knew deep down who was on the other end. From that night forward, my eyes were open. I started paying attention to everything. The time she left the house, the apps on her phone, the way she avoided looking at me when she typed. I wasn't ready to confront her, not yet. But I knew, with a sick twist in my gut, that the woman I thought I knew had secrets. And I was going to find them all. The worst part? I still loved her. I still wanted to believe that maybe this was all in my head. But deep down, I already knew I was about to step into a nightmare I couldn't escape. The whispering phone calls were just the beginning. Once I started looking, I saw the cracks everywhere. A strange receipt in her purse for a hotel she swore she'd never been to. A charge on our joint account for a rideshare at midnight, even though she claimed she was home with the kids. And every time I asked an innocent question, her answers were just a little too quick, too rehearsed, like she had been practicing them in the mirror. One night, I decided to test her. I said I had to work late, but in reality, I parked down the street and watched our house from my car. Around 10 p.m., I saw the glow of headlights, then a car slowing down just enough for someone to jump in. The outline was hers, my wife, disappearing into the night, while I sat there gripping the steering wheel so hard my knuckles went white. When she came home later, she smelled faintly of perfume that wasn't hers, a sweeter, sharper scent, one I knew belonged to another woman. She gave me a kiss on the cheek and asked how my night was, like nothing had happened. I wanted to confront her right then, scream, demand answers, but something in me held back. If I blew up too soon, I'd get nothing but lies. I needed proof. So I played the part of the clueless husband. I smiled, I nodded, I tucked the kids into bed, all while inside I was burning with suspicion. But when she left her phone on the counter to take a shower, I made my move. I knew her passcode. She thought I didn't, but after 10 years, you learn the small things. My hands shook as I unlocked IT first. There was nothing obvious. Just group chats with friends, pictures of the kids, grocery lists. But then I found a hidden folder, disguised as a photo album. Inside, there were screenshots of conversations, blurred pictures, and messages that made my stomach drop. Messages about "can't wait to see you again," about last night being incredible, about next time, no rushing. The name on the messages? My best friend. I stared at the screen, feeling my entire body go numb. It wasn't a guess anymore. It wasn't paranoia. It was right there in front of me. The two people I trusted most, sneaking around behind my back. I put the phone back exactly where it was before she came out of the shower, pretending nothing had happened. She smiled at me, wrapped her towel tighter, and went about her night as if she wasn't stabbing me in the back with every word. The next morning, I looked at her differently. Every movement, every word, every smile felt fake. I began keeping a mental record of everything. The excuses, the times she said she was working late, the way she avoided touching me in bed, like I was a stranger, but the real knife to the chest came 2 nights later. She thought I was asleep when she slipped out of bed. I followed her quietly to the living room, where she sat with her laptop, laughing softly. The glow from the screen lit her face as she typed, her fingers flying with excitement. And then, clear as day, I heard her say it out loud, his name. My best friend's name. She whispered it like it was the sweetest thing in the world, and that was the moment my last shred of doubt disappeared that I didn't storm in. I didn't yell. I went back to bed, staring at the ceiling until morning. Because now, I wasn't just a husband who suspected. I was a man with knowledge. And with knowledge comes power. The only question was, how was I going to use it? Once I saw the hidden messages on her phone, there was no turning back. The illusion of my marriage had shattered, and every word she spoke felt like poison dripping into my ears. But I wasn't about to confront her empty-handed. I needed more than suspicion and a few screenshots. I needed a timeline. Undeniable evidence that even she couldn't twist into excuses. So I started tracking everything. The first step was our joint bank account. At a glance, nothing seemed out of place: groceries, gas, bills. But once I dug into the details, patterns started to emerge. Small, recurring charges at places she had no reason to be. Cafes on the other side of town. Ride-sharing trips late at night that didn't match her work dinners. And then there was the hotel, not once, but twice, showing up on statements within the same month. I printed them out and hid them in a folder at work. My heart pounded as I slid the papers into the drawer, knowing they were the start of a case I never thought I'd have to build. Next, I checked our shared cloud storage. She must have thought she was clever, hiding things in locked albums on her phone. But she forgot that some of those images auto-synced before she deleted them. There they were, blurry selfies in a car, receipts for food deliveries. Even a picture of my friend's hoodie draped over a chair in what looked like a hotel room. That IT felt like being stabbed over and over again, each image a new wound. But I didn't let anger take over. I told myself, hold on, be smart. If you explode now, you lose everything. I went further. I remembered she had a second email address she once used for shopping. I guessed the password, a mix of our kid's name and her birthday, and got in. What I found confirmed everything. Reservation confirmations, flirty subject lines. And the worst part? She used our kids as cover. Emails about taking them to the park, time-stamped at the exact same time her rideshare dropped her off 2 towns over. The betrayal wasn't just against me. It was against them too. And that's when my love started to rot into something else. Not hate. Not yet. But a cold determination. I kept collecting. I bought a small recorder, legal in my state if one party consents, which meant me. I left it in the car when she borrowed it, in the kitchen when she made her late-night calls. Every clip was another nail in the coffin of the life I thought I had. One night, I caught her laughing on the phone, saying, "He has no idea." She wasn't wrong, not yet. But soon, she'd realize I knew everything. The hardest part was acting normal, smiling at breakfast, helping the kids with homework, pretending I didn't know she was sneaking off with the man who used to be my brother in all but blood. But inside, I was sharpening every piece of evidence into a blade she couldn't escape. By the end of that week, I had a folder, bank statements, photos, emails, audio clips. Proof strong enough to break any lie. And as I flipped through those pages late at night, a thought grew in my mind. This wasn't just betrayal. This was premeditated, deliberate. And if she was bold enough to risk our family for him, then I had to be bold enough to take everything back, my dignity, my future, and my children's stability. That I wasn't the man she thought I was anymore. I wasn't clueless. I wasn't blind. I was patient, calculating, and ready. The game had just begun. I couldn't hold it in anymore. After days of collecting proof, after sleepless nights staring at the ceiling, I finally snapped. Not with shouting, not with rage, but with calm precision. It was a Tuesday evening. The kids were in bed, the dishes were done, and she was scrolling on her phone like nothing was wrong. I sat across from her at the table, folder in hand. My heart pounded in my chest, but my voice came out steady. "We need to talk." She looked up, annoyed, like I had interrupted something important. "About what?" I slid a piece of paper across the table, a printout of the hotel charge from our joint account. Her eyes flicked down, then back up at me, cool and collected. "So," she said, "that's work-related." "Work?" I repeated. "At midnight. Twice in the same month." She didn't flinch. She didn't stumble. She just leaned back, crossed her arms, and said, "You're overreacting. You always do this. You make problems where there aren't any." I almost laughed, the audacity of it. I pulled out another paper, this time a rideshare receipt. 2 towns over, the same night you said you were at a work dinner. Funny, because that's nowhere near your office. Her jaw tightened, just for a second, but then she shook her head and smirked. "You must have too much time on your hands." That smirk lit a fire in me. She wasn't scared. She wasn't even apologetic. She was amused, like this was some kind of game. I pulled out my phone and played the recording. Her voice, clear as day. "He has no idea." Her face drained of color, but only for a heartbeat. Then, like a mask slipping back into place, she forced a laugh. "You're crazy. That's not me. You're hearing things." Gaslighting. That's what it was. She thought she could twist reality, make me doubt my own ears, my own eyes. And maybe months ago, it would have worked. But not now. I leaned in and said, "I know. I know about the emails, the rides, the calls. I know who it is." For the first time, her eyes darted away. She fiddled with her phone, avoided my stare. But then she snapped back, sharp as a knife. "Even if that were true, which it's not, you'd ruin everything if you keep pushing this. Think about the kids. Think about what you'd be destroying." That was the dagger she twisted in my chest, using our children as a shield. Pretending that I was the one threatening our family, not her. I sat there, silent, staring at the woman I had shared a decade of my life with. She wasn't breaking. She wasn't confessing. She was doubling down, betting on me folding under the pressure. Finally, I stood up. "If you won't admit it, then fine. But know this, I'm not blind anymore. And I'm not stupid. You may think you've covered your tracks, but the truth has a way of coming out." She rolled her eyes, muttered something about me being paranoid, and went back to her phone like the conversation had never happened. But I saw her hand trembling. For the first time, she realized I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I went to bed that night with a strange calm settling over me. She thought she'd won by refusing to admit it, but all she had done was confirm exactly what I needed to know. She wouldn't confess willingly. That meant I had to change tactics. I wasn't going to beg for the truth anymore. I was going to build a case so strong that she couldn't lie her way out of it. And when the time came, I'd drop it all at once. In front of her, in front of him, and maybe even in front of someone who could make it matter legally. That was the night I stopped being her husband in denial and became the man preparing for war. After that night, I realized something important. She was never going to admit it. Not to me, not to anyone. She would lie until the very end, twisting reality and using the kids as a shield. That meant my only option was to build a strategy strong, enough to crush her web of lies without raising my voice or throwing a single punch. So I made an appointment with a lawyer. Walking into that office was one of the hardest things I'd ever done. It felt like I was betraying her, even though she had already betrayed me 100 times over. I sat across from a man in a crisp suit and laid out the basics. Not everything. Not yet. Just enough to explain why I needed to know about custody laws, about recording conversations, about what counted as admissible evidence. That he listened, nodded, and told me something that changed everything. "If you're smart and patient, You can protect yourself and your kids, but you need to do this by the book. That phrase, by the book, became my mantra that I started organizing my folder like it was a case file. Dates, times, receipts, screenshots. Every little detail went into a separate section. I labeled them, cross-referenced them, and made sure nothing was just an accusation. If I had learned one thing from my wife's gaslighting, it was this. Only undeniable proof mattered. At home, I played the role of the clueless husband again, smiling at breakfast, pretending to be busy with work, nodding along when she gave me her weak excuses about meetings. But while she thought I was sleeping, I was creating backups of everything. 2 USB drives, one in my desk at work, the other hidden in my car's spare tire compartment. If she ever found one, I'd still have the other. The lawyer had also told me something else. If you can get a pattern, not just isolated events, judges take that seriously. So I mapped it out like a detective. Every late-night trip, every suspicious charge, every phone call. A calendar filled with betrayal. And the ugly truth was impossible to ignore. She wasn't just having an affair. She was building a double life, and it wasn't just her. My so-called best friend was right there with her. His name appeared in too many places. His number showed up too many times. And every time I saw it, it felt like another knife twisting in my chest. But instead of letting it break me, I let it sharpen me. I started rehearsing. In the shower, in the car, even lying awake in bed, I practiced what I'd say when the time finally came. Not screaming, not crying, just cold, calm truth. The kind of delivery that makes liars crumble because they can't fight facts. Meanwhile, I bought a second phone, prepaid, untraceable. I used it to store sensitive files and to communicate with someone I never thought I'd contact. His fiancée, that's right. My best friend wasn't just cheating with my wife. He was engaged. And while she probably thought she was walking down the aisle to marry a loyal man, I had the receipts to prove otherwise. But I didn't reach out to her yet. Not until I had everything lined up. Every night I sat at my desk, looking over the evidence. I felt a shift inside me. I wasn't the broken husband anymore. I was becoming something else. Someone patient, strategic, dangerous in a way that didn't break the law but would shatter their little fantasy world to pieces. And the craziest part? She had no idea. She still looked at me like I was a fool. But the truth was, I was 10 steps ahead. The stage was being set. The players were moving into position. And when the curtain finally rose, there would be no escape. The evidence was piling up, but I knew I couldn't take them down alone. If I was going to pull the rug out from under both of them, I needed leverage. I needed someone who had just as much to lose as I did. That's when I thought about her. His fiancée. That I hadn't spoken to her in months, not since their engagement party. I remembered the way she looked at him that night, glowing, proud, as if she'd just found her forever. I felt sick, knowing she had no idea who he really was. No idea that the man she planned to marry was sneaking around with my wife. So I reached out. Not with accusations, not with anger, just a simple message from the prepaid phone I'd bought. We need to talk. It's about him. Please don't ignore this. I didn't expect a reply so quickly, but within minutes, she responded, "Who is this?" I gave her my name. There was a long pause, then 3 dots flickering on the screen, then gone. 10 minutes later, another message came through. What about him? I typed carefully, my hands shaking. I don't want to do this over text, but I think we're both being lied to. We agreed to meet in a quiet coffee shop on the other side of town. Neutral ground. Public enough to feel safe, private enough to talk. The moment she walked in, I saw the worry on her face. She was clutching her phone like a lifeline, eyes scanning the room until she spotted me. When she sat down across from me, she didn't waste time. "What's going on?" she demanded, her voice trembling. That I slid the folder across the table. Not everything, just enough. Screenshots of their messages, the receipts, one of the synced photos where my friend's hoodie was in plain view. Her hand flew to her mouth as she scrolled through the pages. Tears welled up in her eyes, but she blinked them back, shaking her head in disbelief. No, no, this can't be real." "I wish it wasn't," I said quietly. "But it is." She sat there for a long time, flipping through the evidence, her breathing shallow, her face pale. Finally, she whispered, "How long?" I told her what I knew, the dates, the late nights, the hotel receipts. I watched her crumble, piece by piece, as the truth settled in. And then, something unexpected happened. Her tears dried. Her hands stopped shaking. She looked up at me with a sharpness in her eyes I hadn't seen before. So what are we going to do about it? That was the moment I realized I wasn't alone anymore, that we spent the next hour trading information. She confirmed things I hadn't known. The weekends he claimed to be helping his brother move, the sudden business trips that didn't add up. Together, our timelines matched perfectly. The puzzle pieces clicked into place, forming a picture too clear to deny that we made a pact right there in that coffee shop. No screaming confrontations, no messy blow-ups. When the time came, we'd reveal everything at once. No escape, no excuses, just the brutal truth laid bare in front of both of them. As I drove home, I felt a strange mix of emotions. Sadness, yes. Rage, of course, but also a spark of power. For the first time since this nightmare began, I wasn't the one in the dark. I wasn't isolated. I had an ally. And together, we were about to turn their world upside down. After that meeting at the coffee shop, everything changed. I wasn't just a husband quietly gathering proof anymore. I was part of a team, and we had a plan. She and I weren't bound together by love or friendship. We were bound by betrayal. And that kind of bond is ironclad that we decided the confrontation couldn't just be private. If it happened behind closed doors, they'd twist the story, deny, gaslight, maybe even spin it as our fault. No, this had to be done somewhere neutral, somewhere they couldn't wriggle out of with cheap excuses. That's when the idea of couples therapy came up. My wife had mentioned it once before, half-heartedly, probably to keep up appearances. I brought it back up, acting like the hurt husband trying to save our marriage. She agreed too easily, almost relieved. Of course she did. Therapy meant control in her mind. She could play the victim, blame stress, shift the narrative. But what she didn't know was that therapy would become the stage for her unmasking. Meanwhile, his fiancée arranged the same. She convinced him they needed to work on communication before the wedding. He had no reason to suspect anything. So he agreed. Two separate couples, two different appointments. One shared plan. Expose them where lies crumble the fastest. In front of someone trained to cut through excuses, the days leading up to it felt electric. Like waiting for a storm you know is about to break. At home, I played my role perfectly. Smiles at dinner, casual chats, pretending to be relieved that we were working things out. She looked at me with that smug confidence, thinking she still had me wrapped around her finger, but behind that calm, I was sharpening the blade. Every piece of evidence, every timeline, every screenshot was organized and ready. I rehearsed how I'd reveal it. Not all at once, but step by step, like pulling a thread until the whole fabric unraveled. On the morning of our appointment, I tucked the folder under my arm. Inside were months of betrayal condensed into cold, hard facts. I could feel its weight, not just on paper, but in my chest. The therapist greeted us warmly, completely unaware that she was about to witness a demolition. We sat on opposite ends of the couch, her arms folded, mine steady. The first half went as expected. She painted herself as exhausted, unsupported, misunderstood. I let her talk, let her spin her web. I answered calmly, nodding, giving just enough to keep the act going. Then the therapist turned to me. "What do you think the main issue is?" I looked at my wife, then back at the therapist, and said softly, "Honesty." I pulled out the first page from the folder and laid it on the table. A bank statement with the hotel charge circled in red. Her face froze. The therapist glanced down, eyebrows lifting. "What's this?" "Evidence," I said. "Proof of nights." She claimed she was at work, but wasn't. She immediately jumped in, her voice sharp. "This is ridiculous. He's making things up. He's paranoid." I stayed calm. That was the beauty of it. No yelling, no accusations, just facts. I slid the next page forward. A rideshare receipt, then a photo, then a transcript of a message. Each one heavier than the last. Her breathing quickened. Her hands trembled. She tried to laugh it off, but the sound cracked, thin and desperate. And then, the final blow. An audio clip from the recorder. Her voice, crystal clear, whispering his name. The therapist leaned back, stunned. My wife looked like she'd been punched in the gut. She opened her mouth, but no words came out. That was the moment the mask fell, and I wasn't the only one pulling it off. Across town, at almost the exact same time, his fiancée was doing the same thing, laying out the evidence, forcing him to face the truth he thought he'd buried. That it wasn't just betrayal anymore. It was exposure, and there was no going back. The room felt heavy, like the air itself was waiting for her to break. My wife sat frozen on the couch, the therapist staring between us, and me calmly sliding page after page across the table. Every lie she had told, every excuse, every late night work meeting. It was all there in black and white. Receipts, screenshots, audio recordings. No raised voice, no insults. Just the weight of truth pressing down harder and harder. She finally snapped. "This doesn't prove anything," she shouted, her voice cracking. "You don't know the whole story." I leaned back, steady as stone. "Then tell me. Tell us. Explain the hotel. Explain the rides. Explain why your voice is whispering his name when you thought I was asleep." Her face flushed, her eyes darting to the therapist like she expected rescue. But the therapist didn't save her. She just sat there, watching, waiting. And that silence was louder than any accusation. For the first time, my wife was cornered. Not by anger, not by fists slamming on a table, but by facts she couldn't twist anymore. Across town, at that exact moment, his fiancée was doing the same thing. Laying out the timeline, the photos, the messages. I didn't have to be there to know how it went. The shock, the denial, the same desperate excuses. But this time, they weren't facing clueless partners. They were facing people who had receipts, but my wife tried to spin it one last time. It was a mistake. Just once. It didn't mean anything. I almost laughed. Just once. The receipts showed months. The messages showed affection, planning, future promises. It wasn't a mistake. It was a second life that I slid the final page across the table. A calendar I had made, each date circled with proof attached. "This isn't once," I said calmly. "This is a pattern. This is a choice." Over and over again. Her face crumbled. She buried her head in her hands, tears finally spilling. But I felt nothing. No sympathy. No urge to comfort her. Just a cold, quiet relief that the truth was finally in the open. The therapist cleared her throat gently. "It seems like there are serious trust issues here," she said carefully, as if the understatement of the year could soften the blow that I nodded. "There are. Which is why this ends here. I'm done living in lies." My wife looked up at me, eyes red, mascara streaked. "You can't just walk away. We have a family. You'll destroy everything." "No," I said firmly. "You destroyed it. I'm just refusing to live in the ruins." The session ended with silence, the therapist suggesting follow-ups we both knew would never happen. As we walked to the car, she tried one more time, grabbing my arm. "We can fix this. Please." I pulled away. "You had 10 years to protect this marriage. I had to find out the truth from your lies. I'm done." That night, while she cried in the bedroom, I slept on the couch. Not because I was broken, but because for the first time in weeks, I felt calm. The storm had hit, the truth was out, and now it was time for the real consequences to begin, and I wasn't the only one who knew it. Because across town, my best friend's fiancée had already made her decision too. The walls of their little secret world were collapsing. And the worst was still to come. The day after therapy, everything shifted. There was no more pretending, no more fragile illusion of a family held together by denial. The truth was out, and now it was time to act. I woke up early, before the kids, before her. I brewed coffee, sat at the kitchen table, and opened the folder one last time. It wasn't just evidence anymore. It was my freedom. She walked in, her eyes swollen from crying, and froze when she saw the papers spread out. "You're really going to do this?" she asked, her voice raw. "Yes," I said calmly. "I already talked to a lawyer. I've started separating the accounts. You won't have access to my paycheck anymore. And I'll be filing for temporary custody." Her face twisted in shock. "You can't do that. I'm their mother." I looked her dead in the eye. "And I'm their father. A father who isn't sneaking around in hotels, who isn't lying to their faces. I'm not taking them away from you, but I am protecting them from the chaos you've created." She broke then. Not with guilt, not with remorse, but with desperation. She dropped to her knees, clutching at my arm, begging, "Please, don't do this. We can fix it. I'll end it, I swear. Just don't ruin us." I pulled free, standing tall above her. "You ruined us the moment you chose him." Over and over again. This isn't about fixing a marriage. This is about moving on with a life where I don't have to check receipts to know if my wife is lying. Her tears didn't move me anymore. The mask was gone, and all that was left was a stranger. That same afternoon, I met with my lawyer again. We went over the custody paperwork, the financial separation, the plan to protect myself legally. Every detail was covered. Every move was deliberate. By the time I walked out of his office, I felt lighter than I had in years. And while I was setting my future in motion, across town, his fiancée was doing the same. She called off the engagement, returned the ring, and moved out of their shared apartment. In one night, he lost both the woman he planned to marry and the woman he thought he could secretly have. The fallout was brutal for them. My wife's phone buzzed constantly with his calls and texts, desperate, frantic. She ignored some, answered others with angry whispers I could hear from across the room. Their little fantasy had shattered, and now they were blaming each other. For me, though, there was only clarity. I had nothing left to prove, nothing left to argue. The evidence spoke louder than my words ever could. The hardest part was telling the kids. I sat them down gently, explained that things were going to be different, but that both mom and dad still loved them. It broke me inside to see their confusion, but I knew it was better than raising them in a house full of lies. That night, while she cried behind a locked bedroom door, I sat in the living room with my kids asleep upstairs, feeling something I hadn't felt in a long time: peace. For once, I wasn't living in the dark. For once, the truth was mine to hold, not hers to hide. And as I stared at the quiet house, I realized this wasn't the end of my story. It was the beginning of a new one. The weeks after the confrontation were the hardest I'd ever lived through. Papers were filed, accounts were separated, and the home that once felt familiar became nothing more than a place filled with echoes of betrayal. But with every step forward, I felt lighter. My wife moved out temporarily. The silence in the house was deafening at first, but slowly it became comforting. The kids adjusted better than I feared. They missed her, of course, but they clung to me too, and I poured every ounce of energy into making sure they knew they were safe, loved, and protected. Work became an anchor. I threw myself into projects, late nights at the office, anything to keep my mind steady. I started going back to the gym, something I had abandoned years ago. Every drop of sweat felt like another piece of anger leaving my body, replaced by strength. The best part was watching my kids smile again. We cooked together, played games, even took a weekend trip to the mountains. For the first time in a long time, I looked at their faces and saw pure joy, not the tension of walking on eggshells around a household full of secrets. Meanwhile, I heard bits and pieces about her and him. Their perfect little world had collapsed. His fiancée was gone, their engagement finished. My wife was angry at him, blaming him for the fallout, while he blamed her for getting caught. Whatever they had, it wasn't love. It was a lie that finally burned itself out. And me? I survived. More than that, I grew. There are nights I still lie awake, replaying everything in my head, wondering if I could have done something differently. But then I remind myself, I didn't destroy this marriage. She did. All I did was refuse to keep living in a story written by her lies. Now, my life is mine again. My kids are thriving. I'm healthier, sharper, and more focused than I've been in years. And while it hurts to say I lost the woman I thought I knew, the truth is, I didn't lose anything real. Because love built on lies isn't love at all. So here's my question to you. Did I do the right thing? Was I too calm, too strategic, or exactly what the situation needed? What would you have done in my place? If you want to hear more real stories like this one, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next upload. Hit that like button if this story kept you hooked, and drop a comment below to tell me what you think. I'll be reading every single one, because sometimes the best revenge isn't anger. It's building a better life without the people who tried to break you.